When we talk about men's health, especially after the age of 60, the conversation almost always circles around two topics, the heart and the prostate. Heart disease gets a lot of headlines, but prostate health is often tucked away in whispers, confusion, or even silence. Many men avoid speaking about it because they feel embarrassed, or they assume that problems with the prostate are simply an inevitable part of aging. But here is the truth. While the prostate naturally changes over time, one specific habit can actually accelerate its growth, and most men have no idea they are doing it every single day. I want to start with a surprising statistic. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, by the time a man reaches 60, about 50% will have an enlarged prostate, medically known as benign prostatic hyperplasia or BPH. By 70, that number rises to as high as 70%. So if you are in your 60s or beyond, you are not alone if you have noticed changes in your urination. Waking up more often at night, feeling like you cannot fully empty your bladder, or rushing to the bathroom more than you used to. These are extremely common signs of prostate enlargement. But here is what most men do not realize. The way you live your daily life, your habits, routines, and even the choices you make without thinking can either help keep your prostate stable or push it to grow larger and faster. And the one worst habit I am going to reveal in this video is something I see again and again in patients who come to my clinic frustrated and confused. Why is this topic overlooked? Partly because the prostate is a mysterious organ for many men. It is not something you can see or feel directly, and when problems arise, they often get blamed on just getting older. But biology is rarely that simple. There are powerful hormonal, dietary, and behavioral triggers that influence prostate size. And understanding them gives you a kind of control you may not have thought possible. So, in this consultation-style talk, I'm going to walk you through the science of prostate growth. We will talk about how hormones like testosterone and dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, play a role, but also how lifestyle factors, from what you eat to how active you are, matter just as much. I will highlight the single worst daily habit that fuels prostate growth, explain why it is so harmful, and show you simple, research-backed steps you can take to counter it. Think of this as the kind of conversation you would have in a trusted doctor's office, without the rush, the fear, or the medical jargon. By the end, you will not only understand why your prostate behaves the way it does, but also what you can do to protect it starting today. You deserve clarity, not fear. And the good news is, prostate health is not out of your hands. With the right knowledge, you can make small but powerful changes that protect your vitality, your confidence, and your independence as you age. Let us start at the very beginning. What is the prostate and why does it grow as men get older? The prostate is a small walnut-sized gland that sits just below the bladder and in front of the rectum. Its job is highly specialized. It produces part of the seminal fluid that nourishes and transports sperm. You cannot see it, and most men do not think about it until something starts to change. Here is a helpful way to picture it. Imagine your bladder as a balloon and your urethra, the tube that carries urine out of the body, as a straw. Now imagine placing a small donut-shaped ring around the straw right at the base of the balloon. That donut is your prostate. When it is healthy and normal size, you barely notice it, but as it grows larger, it squeezes the straw, making it harder for urine to flow freely. This is why men with an enlarged prostate often describe weak stream, hesitancy, or the frustrating feeling of not fully emptying the bladder. So why does the prostate grow? Here's what the research shows. The National Institutes of Health and Harvard Medical School both emphasize that prostate growth is strongly influenced by hormones, particularly the balance between testosterone and its more potent derivative dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. As men age, overall testosterone levels decline. But paradoxically, the enzyme 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone into DHT, remains active. This means that even though you have less testosterone overall, more of it is being shuttled into DHT. And DHT is like fertilizer for the prostate. It stimulates the glandular cells to multiply, slowly enlarging the organ over years. There's also an inflammatory piece. Studies published in the journal European Urology have shown that chronic, low-grade inflammation is often found in enlarged prostates. This inflammation may come from diet, lifestyle, or even metabolic conditions like insulin resistance. It is almost as if the prostate is caught in a cycle. Hormones encourage it to grow, inflammation accelerates the process, and the result is a gradual tightening of that donut around the urethra. To put this in perspective, if you are over 60 and experiencing urinary symptoms, it is not because your body is failing you, it is because your biology is following a predictable path. Prostate growth is common, not a personal weakness. But here is the empowering truth. While aging sets the stage, your daily choices, from diet to stress to one particular harmful habit we will discuss later, decide how fast and how far that growth progresses. Think of your prostate like a sponge sitting under a faucet. You cannot stop water from dripping on it entirely because hormones like DHT will always play their role. But you can absolutely control how much that faucet drips and whether the sponge swells quickly or stays relatively steady. So the first step in taking control is simply understanding the prostate grows because of hormonal shifts, the activity of DHT, and the added influence of chronic inflammation. And once you recognize those drivers, you can begin to make small but meaningful choices to protect your urinary and sexual health. That is the foundation. Next, we're going to tackle one of the most common myths I hear in clinic, that testosterone itself is the enemy. In reality, the story is much more nuanced and much more hopeful. One of the most common fears I hear from men is this: "Doctor, is my testosterone making my prostate bigger? Should I avoid boosting it?" It is an understandable worry, especially with all the mixed messages online about testosterone replacement therapy and prostate cancer risk. But here is where science brings clarity. Let us break this down like I would in a clinic visit. Testosterone itself is not the villain. In fact, healthy testosterone levels are essential for muscle strength, bone density, energy, and sexual health. The real story lies in how testosterone is metabolized inside the body. Here's what happens. Testosterone can take different pathways. One of those pathways involves an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. Compared to testosterone, DHT is far more potent when it comes to stimulating prostate cells. Think of testosterone as a gentle gardener maintaining the lawn, while DHT is like a fertilizer that makes everything grow more aggressively. Now, this is not just theory. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism and supported by the American Urological Association has shown that men with higher DHT activity are more likely to experience prostate enlargement. This is why medications like finasteride or dutasteride, which block the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, are prescribed for men with benign prostatic hyperplasia. By reducing the conversion to DHT, they slow prostate growth and often improve urinary symptoms. So when you hear someone say, testosterone is dangerous for the prostate, it is only part of the truth. Low testosterone is linked to its own set of problems: fatigue, decreased libido, even metabolic changes. The issue is not testosterone itself, but the balance between testosterone and DHT. Too much DHT for too long is what drives the prostate to enlarge. Here is a useful analogy. Imagine your prostate as a campfire. Testosterone is like the steady wood that keeps the fire going. You need it for warmth, vitality, and function. But DHT is like gasoline. Pour too much on and the fire flares up uncontrollably. The key is not to throw away the wood, but to manage how much gasoline you allow into the mix. And here's the empowering part. Lifestyle choices can influence how active that 5-alpha reductase enzyme is. For example, studies suggest that diets high in saturated fat and obesity can increase DHT activity, while diets rich in vegetables, antioxidants, and healthy fats may reduce it. Regular physical activity has also been shown to support a healthier balance of hormones. So when you think about your prostate health, do not be afraid of testosterone. Instead, focus on how your body is handling it and how your habits influence whether more of it is being diverted into DHT. That shift in perspective changes the entire conversation from fear to empowerment. If this is helping clarify things for you, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might be struggling with the same confusion. And comment below. I would love to know if this explanation makes the science feel more approachable. Now that we have cleared up the testosterone myth, let us turn to the central focus of this video, the single worst daily habit that fuels prostate growth and why it matters more than most men realize. Now we arrive at the heart of our discussion, the one daily habit that silently fuels prostate enlargement in men over 60. And it is not something exotic or rare. It is something woven into the daily rhythm of modern life, prolonged sitting and physical inactivity. Here is why this matters. The prostate is not an isolated organ. It sits in the pelvis, surrounded by muscles, blood vessels, and nerves that all depend on healthy circulation. When you spend hours each day sitting, whether at a desk, behind the wheel, or on the couch, blood flow to the pelvic region decreases. This stagnation creates a kind of traffic jam for oxygen, nutrients, and hormones. Over time, that poor circulation contributes to inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and ultimately prostate growth. Let me put it another way. Imagine a river feeding a small village. As long as the water flows steadily, the village thrives. But if you dam the river and slow it to a trickle, waste begins to build up and the ecosystem suffers. Prolonged sitting does the same thing to your pelvis. It reduces the healthy flow that keeps the prostate stable and encourages the very conditions, inflammation and increased DHT activity that drive enlargement. The research supports this. A large study published in the Journal of Urology found that men who engaged in regular physical activity had a significantly lower risk of developing severe lower urinary tract symptoms compared to sedentary men. Another study from Harvard Medical School highlighted that even moderate intensity activity, like brisk walking for 30 minutes most days, was associated with better urinary health and lower risk of BPH progression. But the impact of sitting is not only about circulation. Sedentary behavior also promotes weight gain and insulin resistance. And we know from research in European urology that metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including abdominal obesity, high blood pressure, and high blood sugar, is strongly linked to prostate enlargement. In short, sitting is not just doing nothing. It is actively setting off a cascade of biological events that feed prostate growth. Here is a simple analogy you can carry with you. Think of your prostate like a sponge. When you are active, you are constantly wringing that sponge, flushing out old fluid, bringing in fresh nutrients, keeping the tissue resilient. But when you sit for hours, that sponge just sits there soaking, swelling, and stiffening. Over time, the difference is dramatic. So what can you do about it? The answer is not complicated, but it does require intention. Stand up and move every 30 to 40 minutes, even if just for 2 to 3 minutes. Incorporate light walking after meals. Engage in activities that strengthen your pelvic floor, like swimming or cycling, with the caveat that long hours on a hard bike seat can put pressure on the perineum, so use a proper seat or mix up your routine. And if you already exercise regularly, remember that long, uninterrupted periods of sitting are still harmful. Movement throughout the day matters just as much as your workout. This is one of the most powerful changes men can make after 60. It costs nothing, requires no medication, and directly addresses the hidden accelerator of prostate growth. And the sooner you begin, the more control you regain over your urinary and sexual health. Now that we have uncovered the worst habit, let us expand the picture. In our next section, we will talk about diet and metabolism, how the foods you choose either calm inflammation or stoke the fire that makes your prostate grow. When men think about their prostate, they often focus on hormones alone. But here is what the research shows. Diet and metabolism are just as important. What you put on your plate every day directly shapes inflammation, hormone balance, and the speed at which your prostate grows. Let us start with an image. Picture your prostate as a campfire we talked about earlier. DHT is the gasoline that makes the flames jump higher. But your diet is the wood you choose to throw onto that fire. Some foods burn clean, steady, and safe, while others are like damp, smoky logs that release sparks and ash, irritating everything around them. One of the clearest connections we see in research is between a Western-style diet high in processed meats, refined carbohydrates, fried foods, and sugary beverages, and a higher risk of prostate enlargement. A large study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that men who consume diets rich in saturated fat and processed foods were significantly more likely to develop bothersome urinary symptoms associated with benign prostatic hyperplasia. Why is this? Several reasons. Number one, unhealthy diets promote systemic inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation has been found in biopsy samples of enlarged prostates, and it appears to play a role in both growth and symptom severity. Number two, poor dietary patterns contribute to obesity and insulin resistance. When insulin levels are chronically high, they can influence hormonal pathways, including increasing the activity of 5-alpha reductase, the enzyme that makes more DHT. Number three, excess body fat, especially around the abdomen, is not inert. It acts like an active organ, producing inflammatory chemicals and even converting testosterone into estrogen, which can further disrupt hormonal balance. On the other side, we have protective dietary patterns. Diets rich in vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, fish, and healthy fats like olive oil, in other words, the Mediterranean-style diet, are associated with lower risk of BPH progression. Lycopene, the antioxidant found in tomatoes, has been studied for its role in reducing prostate growth. A study from the University of Illinois suggested that men who consumed more tomatoes and tomato-based products had a reduced risk of prostate enlargement. Similarly, foods high in zinc, such as pumpkin seeds and omega-3 fatty acids from fish, appear to support healthier prostate tissue. Let us also not forget hydration. Many men with urinary symptoms reduce their water intake to avoid frequent trips to the bathroom. While this may give short-term relief, it can actually worsen irritation of the bladder and prostate in the long run. Proper hydration keeps urine less concentrated and reduces inflammation in the urinary tract. Here is a practical way to think about it. Every meal is either sending your prostate a message of calm or a message of irritation. A breakfast of processed meats and sugary pastries, that is like pouring lighter fluid on the fire. A breakfast of oats with berries and nuts, that is like adding clean, steady wood to keep the fire warm without sparks. So if you are over 60 and concerned about your prostate, begin by asking, what message am I sending it with my food today? Swap processed meats for lean proteins like fish or legumes. Add more brightly colored vegetables to your plate. Use olive oil instead of butter. Small steps done consistently have big effects over time. And if you are finding this information useful, make sure to subscribe and share it. Too many men silently suffer with prostate issues without realizing how much power they hold in their daily choices. In the next section, we will look at something less visible but just as powerful: stress and sleep. These hidden factors may be quietly fueling your prostate growth more than you realize. When men think about prostate health, they usually think about hormones or diet. Very few realize how deeply stress and sleep shape the prostate's behavior. But here's what the research shows. The nervous system and the endocrine system, your hormones, are intimately connected, and chronic stress or poor sleep can tip that balance in ways that fuel prostate growth. Let us start with stress. When your body is under stress, your adrenal glands release cortisol, the primary stress hormone. In small bursts, cortisol is not harmful. But when stress is chronic, from work, finances, relationships, or even the daily strain of poor health, cortisol stays elevated. High cortisol disrupts the normal rhythm of testosterone. It can suppress overall testosterone levels, but paradoxically, it may also shift more testosterone into the DHT pathway we talked about earlier. The result? A hormonal environment that encourages prostate growth. Stress also drives up inflammation. Studies published in Psych Neuroendocrinology and the Journal of Urology have shown that men with higher stress markers also show more severe lower urinary tract symptoms. It is as if the prostate itself becomes more irritable when the nervous system is always on high alert. Now let us turn to sleep. Sleep is not just rest. It is a time when the body resets hormone cycles. Testosterone production, for example, peaks during deep sleep. If you are not getting restorative sleep, testosterone levels can dip lower, and the delicate balance between testosterone, DHT, and estrogen gets disrupted. In fact, research from Harvard Medical School found that men who sleep less than 5 to 6 hours a night had lower testosterone levels and higher rates of urinary symptoms compared to men who slept 7 to 8 hours. There is also the link between sleep apnea and prostate health. Men with untreated sleep apnea often experience intermittent drops in oxygen during the night. This hypoxia, or lack of oxygen, increases systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, and may even directly impact the prostate. One study in the Prostate Journal suggested that men with obstructive sleep apnea had larger prostate volumes compared to those without. Think of it this way. Your nervous system and hormones are like the thermostat in your home. When stress is chronic and sleep is disrupted, that thermostat gets stuck in the on position, the furnace burns too hot, the system overheats, and in the body that shows up as inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and yes, faster prostate growth. So what can you do? First, take stress seriously. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, or even simple breathing exercises have been shown to lower cortisol levels and improve urinary symptoms in men with BPH. Second, protect your sleep. Set a consistent bedtime, reduce screen exposure before bed, and if you snore heavily or wake up gasping, ask your doctor about a sleep study to rule out apnea. Even small improvements in stress management and sleep quality can shift the biological environment around your prostate from one of irritation to one of stability. This is not about being perfect. It is about tipping the balance back in your favor. And remember, you are not alone in this. Many men in their 60s struggle with the same challenges. The key is not to ignore them, but to recognize that your nervous system and your prostate are in constant conversation, and you have more influence over that dialogue than you might think. In our final deep dive section, we are going to bring everything together into practical steps. Diet, movement, stress, sleep, they all matter. But how do you begin making changes without feeling overwhelmed? That is what we will cover next. We have covered a lot. Hormones, DHT, inactivity, diet, stress, and sleep. Now let us bring it all into one clear framework. Because knowledge is powerful, but it only changes your health when you know how to act on it. Here is the first principle: reduce prolonged sitting. This is the worst daily habit for prostate health, and breaking it is one of the most powerful changes you can make. Set a timer to stand every 30 to 40 minutes. Take short walks around your home or office. Think of movement like medicine. Every step is a dose that improves circulation, reduces inflammation, and keeps your pelvic tissues healthy. Second principle, nourish your prostate through food. Choose meals that lower inflammation rather than feed it. Build your plate around vegetables, legumes, fruits, nuts, and fish. Limit processed meats, fried foods, and excess sugar. Add tomato-based dishes for lycopene, pumpkin seeds for zinc, and oily fish for omega-3 fatty acids. Remember, every meal sends your prostate a message. Choose calm instead of irritation. Third principle, balance stress and protect your sleep. Commit to small daily practices that reset your nervous system. This could be 10 minutes of slow breathing, a short walk outside without distractions, or journaling before bed. Protect 7 to 8 hours of sleep as a non-negotiable. If you suspect sleep apnea, ask your doctor about testing. Better sleep equals better hormone balance, which equals a healthier prostate. Fourth principle, maintain a healthy weight and stay active. Carrying excess abdominal fat increases inflammation and hormone disruption. Aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate activity a week. Walking, swimming, light cycling, and add strength training if you are able. Even in your 60s and 70s, your muscles act like a hormonal engine that keeps metabolism and testosterone in balance. Fifth principle, stay proactive with your healthcare. Men often avoid bringing up urinary or sexual symptoms with their doctor, either from embarrassment or the belief that it is just age. But enlarged prostate is not only common, it is treatable. Medications, minimally invasive procedures, and lifestyle changes all offer relief. Waiting in silence only prolongs discomfort. Here is a helpful way to put this into action without overwhelm. Choose one area to start this week. Maybe you commit to standing up every half hour during the day, or maybe you swap out processed breakfast meats for a vegetable omelet. Small, consistent steps build momentum, and before you know it, you have shifted the entire environment around your prostate. Think of this like tending a garden. You do not need to overhaul the soil, the plants, and the irrigation system all in one day. You simply need to water, prune, and adjust regularly. Over time, that garden thrives. Your prostate, your hormones, your energy, they respond the same way. If this video is resonating with you, share it with a friend and let us normalize these conversations. Too many men struggle in silence when what they need most is clear, compassionate information and a plan of action. Now, as we close, let us recap what we have learned and end with a clear takeaway, one action you can begin today to protect your prostate. We have covered a full journey today, and I want to take a moment to bring it all together. We began by understanding what the prostate is, a small walnut-sized gland that plays a vital role in reproduction but often becomes a source of discomfort as men age. We learned why it grows, hormonal shifts, particularly the conversion of testosterone into DHT, combined with inflammation and lifestyle factors, create the perfect environment for enlargement. We then dismantled the myth that testosterone itself is the enemy. The truth is, testosterone supports your health. It is the imbalance, the oversupply of DHT that drives prostate growth. And we explored the single worst habit that accelerates this process: prolonged sitting and physical inactivity. Hours of immobility reduce blood flow, increase inflammation, and worsen the very conditions that make the prostate grow. We added layers to the picture with diet, learning how food choices can either soothe or irritate the prostate. We uncovered the invisible but powerful role of stress and sleep, showing how the nervous system shapes hormone balance. And finally, we built a toolkit of practical steps. Move more, eat wisely, manage stress, protect your sleep, and stay proactive with your doctor. Here is the most important takeaway. An enlarged prostate is common, but it is not hopeless. You are not powerless, and you do not need to live in silence. You have influence over the way your prostate behaves every single day. The choices you make, standing up regularly, choosing foods that lower inflammation, protecting your sleep, these are not small adjustments. They are signals that tell your body how to function. So if you do just one thing after watching this, let it be this: reduce your sitting time, stand, move, and let your body's circulation work for you, not against you. That one habit shift alone can change the environment inside your pelvis and slow the growth of your prostate. You do not have to be afraid of your body. You just need good information and consistent action. And that is what I want this channel to provide: clarity instead of confusion, empowerment instead of fear. Stay curious, stay informed, and remember, your health, your energy, and your confidence are worth protecting. I will see you in the next one. And if you found this helpful, subscribe for more grounded, shame-free conversations about men's health from someone who looks at these issues in the clinic every day.